All right, welcome back, guys. My next guest, if she didn't work in beauty, she'd be a writer of novels, which we're going to talk deep about. She travels to Scandinavia 2 to 3 times a year for work and inspiration. Not a bad gig. She can say and name all 50 states in alphabetical order. We're going to ask her to do that, maybe the first five. She has 3 kids, 2 pets. She loves to travel, and the most remote place she has visited is Tibet. Co-founder and CEO of Nocturnal Skincare, Katey Hassan. Good to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Absolutely. And appreciate the flexibility. Before we jumped on, we were talking about your 2 trees, bushes
Yes,
in the background, big fig
yes.
leaves. So, yeah,
So
beautiful.
unlike you, I don't have a green thumb, but somehow they managed to stay alive. So I will take it.
Hey, I'm telling you, sometime I've learned that if you just don't want it around, it's like a stray puppy, like
No,
it's never going to go anywhere and it
it's so
just
true.
multiplies.
It's so
So,
true. It's like
so I'm really excited to have you because actually your, I believe, PR team actually helped us get another guest on. And she
yes.
was like, you have to have Katey on. And then I dove deep into your journey, looked in your LinkedIn. Um, we'll do a tag in a bit about your product, but I was like, wow, this is an absolutely fascinating woman. So, first off, we're not going to make you say all 50 states, but I also was a geography like on the quiz bowl team, and my role as a seventh grade, I think it was history, and I could say all the Louisiana parishes
Oh my gosh, that's
in
fabulous.
alphabetical order,
I could
and
probably.
then yeah, but then you can say the 50 states, which is also probably a party trick because the most fun thing ever to do is just be like, here's a blank map, write all the states out, and then you just one up everybody by doing it in alphabetical order.
So the first one is Alabama.
Boom.
Can you guess the second one?
Is it Alaska?
Yes.
And then it's
Arizona,
Arkansas, Arizona, Arkansas,
California,
Connecticut. No, I'm skipping one.
Colorado.
Colorado, then
So
Connecticut.
very good. I feel like we totally passed.
Yeah, we got it. We're
I
good.
think what's impressive at this point is like I learned it through a song as a kid, probably when I was 10 years old, and now I'm in my mid 40s and I can still remember it. So I feel like maybe that's now the party trick is just like having that part of my memory, like all the penguins are still there.
Yeah, and having like yourself, me having kids, it's kind of like you're like, "Hey kids, guess what I can do?" And they're like, "God, mom and
Exactly.
dad are so absolute lame."
Stop. Please stop.
But yeah, one day we'll be cool again. But so, all seriousness, Tibet, how was that?
It was an unbelievable experience. Right before I went to graduate school, I took a month and I traveled in China. And that was one of many stops that I did. And it was, I'd say, unlike any other place in the world. And of course, you could say that about just about every place in the world. But this was such a unique environment because there is such an intensity of spiritual devotion and power, and even though it's not my religion, just the level of intensity that people bring, that every single action is something that's devotional. People sometimes walk by taking a step and then prostrating on the ground, and then taking another step and prostrating on the ground, and can walk journeys of hundreds of miles like this. And to me, I'm somebody like when we get into my background, I'll talk about consumer behavior and people. Like I'm fascinated by people, by
Yes.
human behavior. And to me, this was something that I had never seen in anywhere I've traveled in the West. And it was such a really very beautiful connection that people have there.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I love like the anthropology of people and how people behave, which a lot of people don't realize. But in I remember in college, I actually studied multiple anthropology history classes, and it was like, why would that be in the curriculum of marketing? But it makes 100% sense, right? And then
Yes.
today, in today's world, which is the complexities of how to reach a consumer, it's not right. It's just it doesn't make sense. But we'll go into depth there. So let's kind of start at the beginning, your journey. As you'd mentioned, you have consumer behavior research. You're fascinated by social influences and human behavior. What University of Chicago?
Yes.
Why did you choose there?
I They had a fabulous sociology program. And at the time, I thought that I was going to do a PhD in sociology. That was my original intent. I showed up, and probably within a few weeks, a professor there introduced me to a group of students at the business school. And they said to me, and here I am about to do a PhD, and they said to me, why would you spend all of your time doing a PhD? You are going to study the things that we are actually out doing. You are going to end up studying us. And I think that that comment, whether it's true or not true, stuck with me so much. And I kept thinking to myself, no, I want to be the person that gets studied. I want to be the person that the PhDs are psychoanalyzing and trying to understand why this worked and why this didn't work. So for me, it really became a very quick U turn into how can I take my fascination in sociology and consumer behavior, consumer psychology, and operationalize that, right? Like, how can I do something with that? And
Mhm.
so when I finished at the University of Chicago, then I went straight into business school at NYU. And it was, I think a really fascinating journey, and to have that business, like kind of traditional MBA experience, but coming with that deep, deep consumer lens was definitely like a unique approach. And I love it.
Yeah, and I'm not taking your 6+ years of college
Oh
and
my God.
condensing it into one question, but what was your learning, especially because you kind of specialized in luxury and retail marketing? What's the fascination? And maybe you may have the answer to this, but like, where does it draw back to our ancestors of like having things, right? Because ultimately they're just things.
Yes, I have. Well, okay. So my answer is that they're not just things,
Okay.
right?
I love that.
So, and this was what I studied when I did my master's thesis at Chicago. It was studying why people buy certain items. Okay.
Mhm.
So if they're, let's say you're buying like a Louis Vuitton handbag, there's like a certain amount of social signaling that's going on. I have this. I like this sort of thing. I know that this sort of thing is cool, right? Like that's a form of social communication. So I did not think that was very interesting. I'm like, that's very obvious. Like, it's a way of communication. What I wanted to study was what people do in private
Mm.
when nobody is looking. What are you doing when you are alone in your bathroom, right? What are you doing when you are putting your underwear on? Nobody, I mean, maybe occasionally people see it, but nobody sees it. You picked it out for you. And that's a very different type of psychology. It's a very intimate psychology. And what the literature shows is it's a way of people helping to understand their own sense of self.
Mm.
I am a person who blank. I'm a person who loves, French lingerie and like loves to travel to Paris. And this is a way of like me expressing myself. I'm a person who loves like getting a great deal. And like these are underwear that I bought 10 for $10, whatever it is. It's like you're telling yourself little pieces of information about yourself based on what it is that you're consuming. So, because of that, no object is ever really just an object.
Mhm.
Even if it's something that you do quite casually, it's still you looking for validation out in the world of who you are, what your values are, what your priorities are, and then bringing those all the way. I specifically studied lingerie and cosmetics. Those are things you physically put on your body, you
Yeah.
wear around. Like it's something that intimate that you walk around all day in it. And so to me, this is the fascinating answer. And I'll just add one other thing is that people, there's a whole body of research about why people accumulate stuff, right?
Mhm.
Like you hear that phrase of like you spend the first half of your life accumulating stuff and the second half trying to give it away.
Yep.
But all of these objects that we have around us, like this chair or the lamp over here, there's a connection and a story and a place and time that you were when you bought it.
Mm.
And that always stays with the object. And so that way you're kind of forming this visual narrative around yourself as well, good or bad. But that's another part of the research there too.
Yeah, and it's the internal storytelling within yourself where it's a memory that you had. I'll never forget, but we were early on in our marriage, my wife and I, and we were in Cabo with a friend, and we bought this thing that I was like, why are we buying this? And this thing, Katie, still sits in our house. My wife's name is Katie as well.
Oh,
And I'm just like, but every time I see it, I recall it. I remember the moment that we bought it. I know exactly in the little small village we were in and the woman that we bought it from and the story behind it. And so to go a little bit deeper, it's the storytelling
Mhm.
that you want others when they see it to like ask like why do you, maybe lingerie is a little bit different because again it's a very more intimate moment, but you talk about the purse, you talk about every aspect, it gives you that opportunity to say, hey, tell me a story behind this.
Exactly. And there's that, and then there's the story you're telling yourself.
Yes.
These are the things that are important to me, and that you have to reinforce that to yourself. And I think that in the modern world where we are, consuming so much content, so much information, there's so much that's changing, that these physical objects become real. Like, I mean, it sounds like a cheesy way to say it, like touchstones, because I just use the word touch, but it really is a way to visually just look up from your device and say, okay, this is who I am. These are the things I'm doing, whether it is toilet paper, a plant, a couch, like it doesn't matter, but like these are real physical things that I chose, that I did.
And then we're going to go deep into it, but you're putting product on yourself,
Mhm.
making yourself perceive a certain way, but also more importantly, taking care of the human body. I think that's another, being infatuated with health and working out and what I put in my body. It's extremely important because now the longevity of humans continue to, I always jokingly say, but I just turned 46 and people are like, you don't look like you're 46. And then I look back at my dad when he was 46 and I was like, Jesus, you look like you're, and he doesn't look that old, but it goes into, the world. But so let's jump into it. So you've held a ton of leadership roles at some of the most iconic brands, L'Oreal, which we actually had one of the head of research at L'Oreal. That was fascinating conversation. He was on the actual opposite side of you where it was like, hey, this is why you shouldn't be purchasing this media and why you should be buying this media, which was MMA and L'Oreal just didn't, in my universe,
Fair
fit,
enough. Yeah,
but
yeah,
it
yeah, yeah.
does, right? But you held a ton of iconic beauty roles. So share on that.
Oh my gosh. Well, after finishing business school, I had this very strong urge to do things, and I'm going to use like air quotes, the proper way, right? I
Mhm.
wanted to have a very traditional experience where I learned exactly what the industry is and should be. And I'm, again, giving it air quotes because I think that's something that's constantly invented and reinvented. So to me, that was, I want to go to the biggest brand. I want to work on the biggest brand within the biggest company. So I was on Maybelline and their consumer products, first on eye, which is a huge category for them, then on face. And to me, I wanted to get my hands on those really big budgets and all of the incredible resources that they have there, the consumer insights. And I mean, my goodness, like we would do a 6 month long pricing study on whether we price something at $8.99 or $9.99, right? I mean, like it was really like every single decision was super high stakes, and you had a ton of resources to make them. I worked with the most brilliant people, and it's just an incredible experience. But over time, I had this desire to see. I think you can sort of hear that in my experience with wanting to hop out of a PhD program and go to business school. I have this desire to like see physical work in the world. And it takes a very long cycle in a big company for that process to happen. I might work on a project and it'll be in market in 12 months, 18 months. I needed it like same day. So I kept going to, I'd say, smaller and smaller companies over time. After leaving Maybelline, I went to Tarte Cosmetics. I was their head of brand, and was part of growing that company into the international powerhouse that they are today, right? Like they were already in a period of hyper growth. And I was part of the team that launched it into multiple markets worldwide, which was just an incredible experience for somebody who loves people and is
Mhm.
fascinated with people. It's like, oh my gosh, how do I decide how much to localize the brand? How much do I like adapt? How much do I keep the DNA? And it was just this like really fascinating balancing act there. And then from there, went on to Tula Skincare and was their head of brand. And it was early days. I was, one of, I don't know, maybe we were in an office with like less than 15 people when I
Wow.
started. And I stayed with them through the exit to P&G, which was just a very incredible learning experience. But that's really where I learned the power of emotion in marketing, in brand building, and how to connect with the consumer. And I think that that's one of the things that's most important to me in building my own brand is, there's a zillion white creams out there as moisturizers, right? I mean, like, that's true. There's a zillion black mascaras. And the magic is, how do you make one of them memorable? How do you make one of them interesting? How do you not just convince somebody to maybe change their habits from something that they've been doing or buying for so many years, but to actually take something that might look like 10 other products out there and describe it with such nuance and passion and precision that people just remember it in their heart and like in their emotional body rather than just, intellectually as they're like walking down the aisle.
Yeah, just another white lotion. Yeah, and you answered my question because that's what I was going to ask. What was kind of the common thread as you approach those different brand buildings? And sounds like it was it. It was the people. It was how do you describe things? How do you differentiate yourselves from others? Was there ever like a defining moment in your career where you kind of realized like, wow, I truly have this ability to transform products, and not just transform products, but then entire different categories, right? Because I love that it's almost like you came full circle from L'Oreal because you wanted to be in the big brand, and then you helped take a brand public to P&G, another big brand. So there was a
So
massive amount of learning there, right?
I think when we first started, one of the things you mentioned is that I would be a writer, a novelist,
Mhm.
if I wasn't working in beauty. And I think that I have such a passion for the storytelling, for the romance. And sometimes that seems a little hokey or old school or fluffy, however you want to put it, in a very, very science and biotech forward industry. But I do think that it's one of these industries where you are pulling together both the romance, the storytelling, the mood, the feeling, and the biotech, the actual like ingredient science, the sourcing stories, the like that combination of needing to have this incredible clarity on like a molecular level, what a product is doing and what it's doing for someone, and also what the product means to someone is like such a fascinating puzzle to me. And that is a puzzle that I will never get bored putting together, right? So every product and every brand really presents that challenge uniquely. And then, because we live in a world where everything changes every few
Mhm.
weeks, I get to even like reinvent my own products or products that have existed for a while over and over again to constantly make them relevant.
How it's just a question that popped in my head.
Yeah.
So it's one thing, and it's an extremely special talent. I pride myself on being a phenomenal storyteller, and I love storytelling. Actually, people are like, "Dude, you talk to a stop sign." Like, you love and infatuated with like hearing people. Yeah. So it's one thing to like, and it does take a skill to be able to tell a story about a product and et cetera, especially if it's yours, which we're going to get to in a second here. But how is that same passion in storytelling? And I'm going to deviate off a bit. I met with Dr. Pepper years ago, and we were meeting with their marketing team, and they were walking us through right outside of Dallas and Fort Worth, and they were walking through like the biology side per se.
Yeah.
And I asked this same question, and it just popped in my head again. Like, how do you tell that same story and passion towards scientists that are building out your product and you're trying to tell them about different ingredients and what you're ultimately trying to accomplish? Like, is that the process as well? Like, hey, this is what I want the outcome to be. You help me with the ingredients to get there. Or is it a lot of research that you've done as well?
So, on the ingredient side, a lot of research. Right before starting Nocturnal, part of my role at Tula, which is a doctor founded brand,
Mhm.
was leading the product development team, one of many hats that I wore there. And there was such a level of rigor that we would never put anything into market that wasn't up to a certain medical standard, peer reviewed, et cetera. So I think that that sort of like set a bar. And then when it comes to actually sourcing ingredients, technology, and like bringing those two halves together, right? Like the story that I have in my mind, what I think a consumer might fall in love with, what I would want to see in the world, what people, I ask everyone what they think, what they use. Like I'm constantly in a state of curiosity. But in marrying that with what I think the potential is for a product that meets it, I'd say actually one sub note on that is it's not what product meets it today, it's
Mhm.
what product is going to meet that need in like 4 or 5 years from now, right? Like I can't think about a product that is going to be relevant today because by the time I get it to market, it's already over.
It's
And
over. Yeah.
right, like everything is just moving so quickly. So I'm thinking about like what are people's needs, what's happening out in the marketplace, like what's happening with plastic surgery trends in Korea, what's happening with ingredient and sustainability trends in Europe, like, pulling all of these puzzle pieces together, sort of imagining what the world looks like in 5 years, and then finding the technology that meets it there. So, for Nocturnal, we have had the opportunity to be exposed to a lot of incredible technologies. It's working with a small lab in Spain that does really incredible delivery science, in working with an ingredient supplier in Scandinavia who has a really incredible harvesting process. And so, sort of like handpicking across our many years of experience who we think is the best to partner with on that front.
Yeah. So you launched this brand, Nocturnal Skincare, 18 months ago. And I'm gonna give a quick shout out. So very, I don't want to say very few males, but I am one of those proudly. Actually, I tell people all the time, like, absolutely, I'm a dude. I moisturize, and I use moisturize before I go to bed. The story in my head is it's always like I know what my background is. I know my grandfather has a fairly large percent of Choctaw Indian, so I know how our skin works, and just I can see my, which I also appreciate, my aging lines as well. But I see my grandfather and I'm like, all right, I need a. It's just like watering your grass or your fig bush behind you, or don't water it. But I do that. I do the serum. I'm really showing myself here, and I don't care. But I implore all men to definitely moisturize. But so I started using this, which I love. It's the Polar Night Renewal Serum. See, I'm like an influencer here on my
I
podcast.
love
First
it. Take
first
it.
ever product placement, by the way. So I appreciate you sending it. So I started using it for the last 2 weeks, and I was telling you the story offline. But my wife like looked over at and she was like, did you buy that? Because it's a very, very well-known brand, especially now. Like, as in, like, what? Like, why would you buy that? And she since has commandeered it, but I'm gonna definitely purchase more of it. But it's so tell
Fabulous.
us more about that. You launched the brand.
Mhm.
You literally had no PR,
No
no
PR. We
influencers.
launched with one product. I'd,
Yeah.
I'd say in some ways it's like we did everything the wrong way. I mean, I say wrong in a very loose format because it's intentional, right? Like I have this instinct when I see everyone doing something one way, I want to do it the opposite way, right? Like I think that's
Mhm.
just, one of the qualities about me. But, you know, how do you launch a beauty brand now? It's like, huge media budgets,
Mhm.
celebrity or influencer founder, retail exclusives where it's really getting pushed in a number of different capacities, influencers, et cetera. This is a brand bootstrapped, myself, a co-founder, and we launched, I'd say, like the softest of soft launches. We sent an email to our friends and family, and that was it. And we
Amazing.
let it sit for about a month, and then we very quietly had an Instagram channel, and then about a month later we did like a more, like a press release, and that was really it, right? So there was no media budget. It was very, if word of mouth throughout the industry. And honestly, it it worked. And one of the things that worked, which was very surprising to us, was we very early on in that first month of, kind of being in the public, had a video go viral, which is like, of course, everybody's greatest dream to, sort of be discovered in this way. The problem was it was a video for a product that we did not sell. It
Oof.
was a product that we made to give as a gift with purchase when you buy a serum, not the actual product itself. But here's what's fascinating about it. It was my co-founder in the video. His name is Daniel. He's Japanese. And it was about a traditional Japanese knot bag. And it's an ancient design. And he's really like talking about the history and the heritage. And it's, design that's been passed through generations and generations for its incredible elegance and functionality. And people fell in love with this. And I don't know that it's necessarily, I mean, the bag is awesome. So I think it's like one part falling in love with the bag, but the other part is falling in love with the story.
Yes.
And the idea that, oh my gosh, I can buy something that has, like a real depth to it, that has this curiosity to it, that has a fun story that I can tell at a party, that I know the history, I know the person who made it because I saw a video with him online. And I think that gave us the information so early on that the cultural and heritage component behind the brand was a lot more important than we originally anticipated. We expected that we would go to market, we would just talk about the delivery system and how we encapsulated peptides in gold and like we use signal and carrier peptides, like incredible, incredible biotech story. But what really drew people to the brand was the heritage,
Mhm.
the story of, I'm Scandinavian, Daniel is Japanese, we call it Japandi. It's like a term that came from interior design.
Yep.
The Japandi aspects of the brand and the way that we infuse our own personal narratives, history, heritage into every detail of the aesthetic, the sourcing, the ethos behind the sustainability, et cetera, is very, very deeply personal. And I think that is what people are connecting with. It's like we want something that feels real, that feels like it has that depth to it.
Yeah. And how great is it that here you are, you're,
Here we are now. Yeah, exactly.
but it's everything that you studied, right? You studied, and your passion towards people, and your professors were telling you like, no, you're going to be the person that we're studying. And here
I,
you are. And I love that, because I think that the world that we live in today, like, I feel like people get bored with the same old, same old. And it's
Mhm.
like, I want a story. We're actually, my wife and I are taking the second plunge of building our second home.
It's so
Not
exciting.
our second home, but we're building the second house that we've ever built from scratch. And we actually started the process today.
Yeah.
And, when we built our old house, it was, hey, we want to have some like certain things, like our floors come from this old train station in Nashville. The bricks come from
Yeah.
this old church in Kentucky that burnt down. So you have this story, and it's very similar here. I could see how people actually, I got confused too when I was looking you up to have you on the podcast. I was like, wait, they sell bags or do they sell lotion? And but I love this, because as you're telling this story, growing up in New Orleans, one of my neighbors across the street was Japanese and very, very heavy into the culture, and it was very beautiful. But then simultaneously, you're blending in your Scandinavian roots of like, very much about geometry and
Oh,
having
yeah.
things. So having that story alone, to your point, if you're going down the aisle, or you're searching online, you're like, well, I want to buy the product that has the best story, period.
True. And the best
And
technology,
yes,
right?
yes,
So
yes.
to me, it's almost like the bar at this point is so high, you can't just have one of them. You
Mhm.
have to give everyone everything, right? Like you
Yes.
have to give the absolute best formula, the best technology. But even that alone is not enough. You have to do it in a way that evokes a feeling or being a part of a community or a part of something that's bigger than just a skincare product, right? So I think, and the story could be so incredibly beautiful, but if you buy the product and it sucks, like you're never going to buy it
Oh,
again.
for
And
sure. Yeah.
that's the end of it. So to me, it's like you have to be at an A plus in both of those areas, especially if you're coming to market. We're not celebrities, we're not influencers. We've been in the industry a long time. Like we definitely are, we know how things work in the industry, but I think I had 400 Instagram followers and was private. I mean, it's like we are not coming to the table with the usual advantages. And we really, really leaned into the one part of our brand that we knew that nobody else could do. And that was us.
Yep. Yeah. So what about the product side itself? You were, if you're your 25-year-old self that was at L'Oreal, like,
Yeah.
how proud of you would you be at this moment? Not only have you led big brands, but more importantly, now you just went off on your own and you were like, I'm going to actually create a product that competes against insert these brands. What separated your product besides the story from everything else?
I mean, I think the incredible part about launching your own brand is that you can craft and design things exactly the way that you want to. And I think that throughout my career, I've stepped into more established brands. I mean, some of them is, young as a year or so old. But when you step into something that already has history, it already has a community or certain thoughts around it from a consumer sentiment standpoint, what you're focused on at that point is changing habits, changing behavior, changing the way that people are thinking, and launching a brand from scratch. Like you can include all of the elements of things. There's so many things I want people to discover about this brand over the years. There's so many little Easter eggs, so to speak, that we've hidden in the brand through that we, will sort of reveal as the world changes, right? And I think that that comes from the look, after like a certain number of years in the beauty industry, you've seen so many trends come and go, right? Like
Mhm.
it's this is in, now this is in, and we want founders who are experts, founders who are real people. We want artistry brands. No, we want natural beauty, right? It's like you've seen the whole
Sure.
pendulum swing so many times that we approach this saying like, how do we make this pendulum proof, right? How do we add elements to this brand when we are designing it so that if the movement really focuses, if the ethos moves in the direction of sustainability, or it moves in terms of natural ingredients, or it moves in a direction of biotech, or it moves in a direction of heritage, like we're right there in a super authentic way with an incredible like DNA level kind of story and set of beliefs.
Yeah, and we've had a lot of different, CPG brands on the podcast and, obviously from the advertising marketing side, and a lot of them really leaned on, like, my grandmother used this product, and then as a mom, and then now my daughter used this. So you have these, like, legacy brands, but I feel like, I think about my 13-year-old daughters, they're at the age now where it's like disruption, like, "Oh, well, what's cool?" So even though you didn't have any influencers, you didn't have a creative agency, and you guys were bootstrapped, I'm assuming now you've seen, like, the pendulum, like, you now have influencers swarming to you, probably maybe not even paid in the early days, but touch on that a bit, like, how has the brand then taken off? And maybe you're gonna tell me, like, we still don't have influencers that are the major.
Influencers, no, I
I
know.
love it. No,
I mean,
that's even better.
we definitely will soon. Like,
Sure.
these are all necessary steps in
Mhm.
terms of growing brand awareness and introducing the brand to additional communities. And but we still don't have any paid influencer partners, no paid celebrity partners. We just have a number who have shopped the brand or been introduced to the brand organically and shared it, which has been absolutely remarkable to us, and I think is not something that we would have expected in this type of environment. I think that's that's very meaningful and very special to me. A lot of we don't have a PR, publicist, et cetera. Like that's something that we desperately need to start doing. But with just myself and Daniel hustling, like we're going out and sharing our story with as many people as possible, we've been able to earn coverage in Vogue, Women's Wear Daily, The Rob Report, Glamour. I mean, it's really like incredible to me the fact that these things are possible in a world where we haven't put budget towards them yet. So that makes me really excited to say, okay, once we start putting budget towards these things, like what can we do? So we
Yeah.
kind of have like a sense what we can do. And now like let's throw some fuel on the fire and like really go for it.
Yeah, but there is something very powerful, especially in the world that we live in where and we're let's dive into it. Like in the world of algorithms, right? You are so much like, and again, we talk about this all the time, a 129-year-old billboard company. We talk about it all the time to nauseam. We're like, eventually the algorithms, you're like, how do I, as a CPG brand or a brand new product coming to market, but also more importantly, how do you as a consumer start to kind of say like, that celebrity pretty sure 3 years ago was pushing another product, or she doesn't really look, act, and behave like me. And also, why am I getting this on my feed when it's not at all who I am? So, that algorithm can be positive, but there's something powerful, Katie, that you not only your story, but it's your product that in a world now where with AI creeping in, you're kind of like, let me hear from actually, in your case, other women that live in the neighborhood, other women that are in the beauty industry, celebrities that are now embracing it organically. There's something more powerful about that. I'm not saying the influencer economy is not important,
No, it
but it
is.
can
It is.
also get a little bit clouded. So I'm applauding you for breaking through that clutter and really having a powerful impact utilizing old school. But what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's definitely a risky strategy. I'll put it that way. I mean, like it is entirely possible that we could have launched and we could have sent the email to our friends and family and just very quietly, Homer Simpson style, like faded back into the
The
bushes,
bush,
right?
best
So
meme.
I I think it's definitely a risky approach to go to market without all cylinders firing in every single one of those traditional marketing levers that we know and love. But to me, I wanted to go to market in a way, like I said, soft launch and then more word of mouth. And then, after a while, we turned on some paid media on Meta and, very slowly added one thing at a time, titrating up. I wanted to know it worked. And I feel like I'm never going to get that opportunity back again to really know when I turn something on or off exactly what's going to happen. And I have that social scientist background. Like I like running these little experiments and seeing that when I put advertising dollars over here, what happens? Okay, I'm going to take them away now. I'm going to put them over here. Now what's happening? And this opportunity, as long as, I mean, look, as long as I'm growing, if I stop growing, then I can't run these experiments anymore. But
Sure.
as long as I'm growing at the rate that we're growing, I have the opportunity to really learn these things without being under a microscope and without having some of the pressures that are going to come in the next 18 months.
Yeah, and you could, as a, I don't call it a startup, but a startup, you could easily spend your entire profits on advertising, and
Oh yeah,
then you
easily.
miss the mark completely, right?
Right, right, right.
And that's kind of frightening as well. Um, so media and community, how important is that to you? You're big into travel. Is that integrated into a lot of the storytelling with the brand?
Great. That's a great question. When I was telling you about the bag,
Mhm.
the point had nothing to do with the bag, right? It had to do with the idea that there was something behind that. What were people curious about? Why do people like that video? Who cares?
Mhm.
And answering that question, who cares? What did people enjoy about this? They found it clever or they liked hearing stories about ancient Japan. What is it? And to really hone in on that second level piece of information, like what was so interesting to somebody about this, that not only did they finish watching it, but they followed us, they grabbed their wallet, they bought it. Like that is a super high bar. And so I really am like teasing all of this apart. Like, where could somebody be coming from that they would think and feel this way? So anyway, this is all leading up to this is how we build our community.
Mhm.
It's really trying to assess what do people, we put out different styles of content, and some of them are about skincare, some of them are more culturally focused. And I would say that that cultural focus, that Japandi, Japan and Scandinavia, they're two very private cultures. People
Mhm.
are quite curious about them because they're quite private. That when we put out content that is more culturally and heritage based focused, that's more of like the top of the funnel for us, right? That's how people come into the universe of the brand because they're curious about a midsummer cake that my cousin baked, or they're curious about this, agriculturally forward spa that we travel to in Sweden, where it's close to, the water that we're sourcing, or, whatever it is, right? Like they're curious about something very specific that's happening within that Japandi world, and through that they enter into this almost like space in the nocturnal community where you're sort of suspended in that world. You can stay there, you can dig around and learn around in that world for as long as you want, and then you can leave and do other things. But to me, like creating that community space and having it start with, okay, most people are here because they're curious about Japandi, and now talk about skincare. Like these are not unrelated things. Like in skincare, like it is the exact same principles. It's the same level of discipline and care, sourcing, biotech, innovation. Like let's talk about some of those. And I'd say like that's more of a lower funnel conversation. People stick around because it's fascinating, honestly. So that's like the way that we think about community. But I'll just add one other thing, which is community. It's like not a one way thing. I just said all the things that, like, oh, people are, they're following us. Like, that's not what it's about. Like, we are constantly saying to ourselves, like, we are so lucky to have this community. Any day, someone can unfollow us, they can leave. There's other things that are interesting going on the internet, and they can be gone. Any piece of content that's not great, like, it could tell them, like, this isn't really the place for me. So, we focus very much not only on having great content, but also on what can we give to people? Like what can we give back to them that's unique that they only have access to as a part of our community to show them like how important they are. So, we do a lot of travel to Scandinavia, so we've released a number of travel guides. We we did a series of yoga classes around sleep because look, the idea behind the brand is it's about your skin when you're asleep. All like sleep inducing rituals with like an incredible master instructor in Scandinavia. And these are things that we are constantly doing because we need to give value beyond just product in order to be a compelling place for people to spend time.
And I would imagine, and I'm going to ask you one of the questions as it relates to education. Like I'm imagining educating about nighttime
Yeah.
serum, nighttime. That's extremely important. And so my question is you're obviously having to spend a lot of time on like why do this? Because
Yes.
respectfully, there's a lot of brands out there that are gimmicky things. It's like, oh, if you do this, this, and this occurs, and it's like, I don't know about that. But circadian rhythm,
Oh, yeah.
I had no
So
idea your skin has that. But tell me about that. And
I mean, we could have spent an entire hour just talking about the biotech and the longevity science behind your
mhm,
skin because at the end of the day, I mean, it's the largest organ in your body. It's a
mhm,
huge part of your health, your immune system, et cetera. So, I mean, there are incredibly important functions of your skin that we study when we're developing products and we're figuring out where the capabilities are in the next 3 to 5 years in terms of product performance.
mhm,
So one of the things that I'm gonna talk about circadian rhythm, but just one thing that like is a big shift happening in beauty right now. You'll see it everywhere. Is this shift towards longevity? No
mm,
one is saying anti-aging anymore. That's done. That's over. Everybody is saying
sure,
skin longevity. And it's because scientists have been able to take the 12 hallmarks of aging, their molecular changes that happen in your body, cellular changes that are measurable as you age, and to then in a lab environment target every single one of those changes and find ways to reverse it or to slow it, to stop it. Right. And that's the level of biotech that is in the beauty industry right now. And it's very, very exciting.
yep.
So, I mean, it's really like almost in this like biohacking space when it comes to the cellular science. But circadian rhythm in particular, I'm convinced is going to be a huge unlock, not just for skincare, but just for overall health, wellness, performance. It's something that high performing athletes are really into. And it's because your skin has its own natural cycles, rhythms, and behaviors that it does based on what time of day it is. And
Mhm,
your skin in particular, when you wake up in the morning, it basically goes to sleep. It like your skin barrier thickens. It is trying to protect itself
I'm
from
listening.
environmental damage, from sun, pollution, like everything that you're going to put your face through
Yep.
the entire day. Like it is trying to put up a shield. Then at night, we like to say like around 10 p.m., like your skin is starting to hit its peak repair window. Your skin barrier starts thinning out. It's more permeable. That
Mm,
makes it a better time to apply really high performing products and actives. Your skin is more receptive to it. More products like get in. It's also the time that your skin is doing all of its repair functionality, renewing. Repair and renewal over 30 times higher at night. So, by applying skincare products that are focused on repair and renewal, at the time that your skin is actually repairing and renewing, it's like supercharging a process that's already happening instead of putting those products on your skin while it's sleeping and it's like not really
Yeah.
going to do as much with them. So to me, it's like this is the ultimate biohack for skin because you're just working with your skin's natural physiology in
Mhm.
order to make your products work better. Like just apply them at 10 p.m. and like it's so simple. Your skin's ready for them, receptive, they will work harder, you will get better results.
So how do you, and I love your passion because everything that I've studied about this, and also I watch my wife, like, why does it take you 30 minutes before you get to bed? Like, this is
Totally,
wild, but it
totally.
makes sense, right? But how do you bottle all that up into an advertisement, whether it's social media, whether it's online, whether it's mobile, whether it's out of home? How do you educate and talk to the consumer in little bites to educate them on that? Because obviously you're going to have your core group of people that it's like, yeah, no kidding. And I'm going to buy this product all day because it is unreal. And by the way, the stuff that it's made with, I'm like reading off the box here, is is mind blowing to me. And we could probably have another hour podcast. But
Mhm.
from an advertising perspective, where does your storytelling come in, and why is it so important that social media exists to be able
I'd
to
say
tell the story?
the first thing that we have to do, it's not like, oh, in interaction one, like we need you to run and grab your wallet and buy the product. Like that's not the intention. All we want to do is to make someone curious.
Yep.
Like just
I love that.
curious. Your skin, what it does at night is different than what you think. Beauty sleep is real, but not in the way you've been taught. Like you're like, wait, what? What? Like I've heard of these things, or like, what? My skin is nocturnal. It's awake at night and asleep during the day. Like what? And I think that just having enough curiosity to say, I just want to find out a little bit more about it is the bar that we're constantly sitting at. And that's a high bar in this type of environment, right? But I do think that there are ways that are really efficient and like with a really simple and straightforward question, like what does your skin do at night? It's not what you've been told.
Mhm.
We ran a print ad with that as the tagline. Nothing about the brand, nothing about the product, but aren't you like a little curious? So that's, the way that like that's our way in when it comes to advertising. The other way in is just jumping straight to results, right? Like even as an indie brand that was bootstrapped, like we put most of our dollars into clinical testing. We did a 6-week study with an independent third party with expert graders. They're using like incredible technology and instruments in order to measure not what people think is happening in their skin, I mean, we measure that too, but what is actually physically changing in your skin, like the depth
Mhm.
of a wrinkle, the elasticity of your skin, like all of these things are measurable. And a lot of times what is very compelling to people is just leading with that. In a 6-week clinical study, 100% of people had a significant reduction in fine lines and wrinkles.
Oh
Like
well.
that's what happened in the study, right? So just leading with that, you're like, wait, what? Like that's a stat that doesn't even seem real. And again, it's like a little bit of curiosity, but leading with the answer instead of the question, and that is effective with other people. I mean, there's just different ways that people want to come in, and that's like the direct one.
I was going to be like, look at this, no lines. Just kidding. So Substack you were sharing has become like that's not a channel that most people would think. But tell the story. How has that become such a growth channel for Nocturnal brand?
Yeah, we were there early as a brand, and I'd say in two ways. One, we were there from in like an advertising perspective, and we work with a lot of, we do PR, we send PR to lots of Substack writers, and I think for us it was like this is a world that we know is a lot of writers, former editors at big publications, very well respected names that are doing their own thing. They are writing without the constraints and the limitations of a traditional media publication. And because of that, you end up seeing these like very hyper engaged communities on Substack. And to us, wanting to tap in from a how do we, do product placement or mentions or whatever it is, like that to me was, oh my gosh, like this is a place where there's like real authentic community happening. And like that's where I want to be putting any sort of advertising because it's real and it's raw and it's happening very, very fast there. For us as a brand, we launched onto the channel, oh my gosh, maybe a year plus ago,
Wow.
and it was we have like no resources, like anything, any word that is written I wrote, any photo that's taken like Daniel probably took it. I mean, like we are really hustling and doing it all ourselves. So long form content endeavor is definitely a high lift and challenging for us. But again, it's building this world that somebody can enter into and just dive into this whole realm of storytelling, like, traveling with us to Copenhagen and going to this restaurant that, they bike in all of their ingredients and like how we use that to inspire ways that we think about sustainability. And it's a whole world that's being built in like a lot of ways ready to be discovered, I'd say. But there's just not a lot of brands on Substack. That's the other part of it. It's like when you're a small brand and you can move fast, like go to the place where nobody is if you think that it might grow.
But it goes back to your point. It's very much, and again, influence are very powerful, but consumers are starting to get very wise, and they really want to know the people that are truly utilizing it, the stories behind it. And when I think about certain brands, and again, being very health conscious, what I eat and what I put in my body, I take certain vitamins and certain lion's mane and reishi and all that stuff. I want to know where that product's coming from, because in my mind, all I know is a massive factory pharma company that's just pumping this out. And I don't want my organic mushroom side of things to just be another part of the production. Like I want to know physically. So I think I love from the marketing perspective that you're going back to the roots, which is just like old school storytelling. Where did this product come from? And not just where did it come from, but I love the history of like it was biked in. Like those are type of things that it's not like, oh, well, that's super cheesy, but I'm going to buy the product because I like the story. It's like, no, otherwise that product may be coming from brand XYZ, coming from just a massive factory. And that's not the same when you're embracing something that you're putting into your, Moderna, is that right? Into your skin. That's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah.
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 Epidermis, sorry. Mederma's the
One of the places that we approached right when we first started ideating for Polar Night Renewal Serum was a farm in Finland,
mm,
and they grow these really incredible oats. And we have a lot of, like, I mean, I could talk about the biotech ingredients in the product, and like they're really innovative and tech forward, but this is like something that is very traditional, right? Like these oats have been grown on this organic family farm for generations and generations. And one of the very special things about it is that it is as far close to the Arctic Circle that plants can still physically grow. And because of that, there aren't natural pests. There aren't, it has very unique conditions where the oats are spending at some points in the year, 24 hours a day in complete darkness.
mm,
And then there's the summer where they have a very, very short growing season where it's like the only time of year that it's not dark. And they like burst out of the ground and they have these like really unique, complex, powerful qualities to them because of how close they're grown to the Arctic Circle and their lack of sunlight and other resources. So I say this all because while there is this real reverence around the technology and the longevity and like that stuff is just beyond incredible and fascinating. There's also something about the terroir of a single ingredient that we formulate with. And to know that the bottle that's in your hand, the year that those oats were harvested, it's not going to be the same year that the oats are harvested for the next production run that we do. And those oats, because of the amount of rainfall or the amount of cold or sunlight, will have different qualities. And if you are of the mindset thinking about energy isn't created or destroyed, like these are qualities that are in the product. You can find that interesting. You could find that like, no, I just want to talk about the targeted delivery capabilities and time release peptides. Like that's also equally as fascinating. But to me, there's something about that level of detail, and the fact that this family of oat farmers had never worked with a beauty brand before. Like we were the first ones to ever approach them. We're probably still the only beauty, hopefully, still the only beauty brand that they work with. And that was such a unique and special experience for us. But it's that level of thoughtfulness and rigor behind every single ingredient in the product. I could tell you a story like that for the next 12 ingredients. We don't have time. You would eventually get bored, but you see what I'm saying? Like that's the
Yeah.
level of
Well,
care.
and it's because I'm deep into this stuff, and it's like the human body evolves, and
Mhm.
it evolves in the environment around it. It's not set to be this was the product and how it was made 40 years ago, and we're going to use the same exact ingredients. Like our body was not made that way. It's funny you said that Nordic oats because it was one of the last questions I had. I was like, tell me more about the Nordic oats because it says it on the bottle and the box, and that's what I love. It's like gold peptides. I'm not going to even try to rattle off the other
Yeah.
ones. The Nordic oats, that could have been like a National Geographic story. But again, going to your point from the advertising perspective, it's like consumers want to hear this story and where they come from. Um, we literally could talk for hours and we're almost at time. So I definitely want you, like you've moved more towards some, old is new. I love that you're going more towards like print and niche publications, but one specific one that you partnered with recently with Racket during the
Mhm.
US Open. Maybe share a little bit more about that as we kind of wrap here.
So I became convinced that print media is the place to be. And part of the insight there, and I think, look, for many reasons, tennis is definitely having a cultural moment. And I think is very relevant in the fashion world and athletes. So there's a lot of reasons that that has cultural resonance and will continue to for quite some time. Like I said, I'm always thinking about where things are going to be in a few years from now, not where they are today. And so there's that aspect of it, but there's this whole world of niche print publications that are going back to almost like that 101 of like really beautiful paper, like really stunning editorial photo shoots, not mass distribution. This is not a magazine you're going to find at the grocery store, right? I mean, it is something, it's a limited run. You have to kind of like be in the know to know that it exists. And there's a handful of magazines that are like this. And to me, those are the types of of people who care about that level of detail and that ability to like be in connection with a community in such depth. That's the type of profile of customer that I think we want to find and engage with and to bring into our community, because there's so many shared values that are there. So unquestionably in 2025, as an indie brand, running a print ad is not on the top of anyone's list, or it's not on anyone's bingo card. But to me, it was the place to go to find people who are super passionate,
Mhm.
engaged, curious, and that those qualities that I'm hoping the brand can inspire in people are already being inspired in those pages and rackets. So I'm just there in the same community that they are.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think you should disagree with that. You are shaping the mold of what you're not doing what everyone else would do, and it's proving to work out really well. So I would continue down that path. I agree. It's the same thing of like eating at the chef's table, having a customized experience, utilizing look again, 129-year-old billboard company. We're now seeing brands come to us because it's like I can't beat the algorithm and I can't spend enough money to off bots and frauds. And
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I'm surrounded by the right thing. So I think you're literally this podcast and your marketing strategy could be a case study on like how the new world of advertising is because we as consumers, not only do we want that story, we want that experience. It's why I watch National Geographic and I'm like fascinated by why XYZ came out this. It's why I watch certain chef shows because I'm like, I would have never known about that person. So I think you're kind of bucking the system here and you're talking to that niche audience that's going to help this brand continue to grow. Um, again, I could talk to you for hours about this, but I love that it goes back to your freshman year in college or sophomore year where you're literally like no, I want to be the one studying, but you're the one now creating a brand of consumers that are intrigued, right?
Yeah.
Last thing I'll say about it is what I love about the Scandinavian culture specifically is they brought me ice baths, and I
Yeah.
religiously do them every day. Do you?
They're so great. I do. I do. Yes.
I love it.
There's no better feeling. And
Nope.
it's bizarre to say that because it's almost painful,
It's
but there's
awful,
no
but
better
it's
feeling.
yeah, I
And
agree. That's why I do my serum at night and jump in that ice
it's
bath first thing, and it just re it's wild, yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Look, this has been way more exciting. I knew it was gonna be exciting just reading about you, but I love your passion. I wish you the most success with the brand. Definitely have a new consumer here. And I love the storytelling behind what you've built and what you've done.
Well, this has been a delight, and thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. What's the last 3 states on the end? We'll edit the time out in between
I
this.
know. I'm like, I have to start at A and get there. I
You
can't
have
do
to
it
get all the way
backwards.
there? Oh, we don't have to do that.
It's like how people, when you can't fall asleep at night and they say to recite the alphabet backwards, it's like the same thing. I'm like,
Wait,
it's
no,
so
we're gonna get back here.
hard.
All right,
Like
so there's no Z,
there's no Z.
there's no
Uh,
X, there's no Y.
Wyoming,
Yeah, it's Wyoming.
Wyoming. Yes, Wyoming, Wisconsin, West Virginia.
Look at that, you're a pro. I cheated, by the way. I had Google up here, so
Oh my gosh. I'm like, no, I'm gonna get it. But
I
it's
love
like
it. Well, look, Katie, this has been a blast. I
it's
appreciate your
so fun.
time,
Thank you
and
so much for
again,
having me. It's a lot of fun.
absolutely.